Before, after, before, after.
They turned out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Hello, Tim.
Hello. Hello, Ryan.
And hello, everyone listening. Ho, ho, ho. Hoppy, happy holidays. No, it's happy ho, ho, holidays, everyone.
Good one.
Welcome to part 1 of 2 of our Christmas holiday season special episodes. Episodes of what, you might ask, but just in case you don't know. Episodes 1 and 2 of our Ho Ho Holiday special of the show, Dismembering Horror, which is the podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie, and
myself, Tim Aslin.
That's right. We dismember a horror film for you. We talk about what worked, what did not work, anything else we found interesting or noteworthy, all in the spirit of friends getting together, trying to glean something from the dark edges of the innerverse and universe, all the places you aren't supposed to look, but there is something to glean. That's what I think of what we're doing with horror movies, more or less.
Yep, under the corner of the carpet there.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't look.
Never,
it's gross.
Never know what you'll find. And then just all in the spirit of like, you want to get together with your fellow horror friends, which can be a unique bunch amongst your friend group. And whether you have that in-person friend group or not, we hope we can fill that niche for you somewhat. You consider us your horror fiends that are always here for you as well. All right. So for episode 170, well, before we really dive in deep to the snow here, Tim, you want to catch us up? We're evolving our show over the coming months here.
Sure. Okay, so here we go. So we, as we have mentioned before, have joined the Connected Podcast Network, which is awesome. And there's a bunch of other shows that are really great on it. I mean, all the shows on it are great. I'm still making my way through them. Check them out. But as part of that, we sort of decided that we want to just shift our output here a little bit and how we approach things. We want to focus a little bit more on like building the audience and reaching out and changing how we do that. We've decided is going to involve moving to a different format, essentially. And so that new format is going to be 2 episodes a month instead of 4 or every week, however that ends up landing. And so every other week, we'll be releasing episodes from now on. And then, there may be times, where we do something special. You'll see. It's all incubating. And so December, we're going to do 2 weeks. And then this is the first one of 2. So in 2 weeks from now, we'll do another episode. And then in January, because it's kind of a slow time of year for everybody, we're going to ease off, do some more brainstorming and sort of set up the year. And so there will probably be no episodes in January. We might release some old ones, re-release, or talk about some things, maybe some little small bites or something. But either way, that's what we're doing. And we hope that we can kind of focus our energy a little bit more on interacting with you all, the listeners.
Yeah, exactly. This is in no way, I'd say this more for myself as a reminder. We aren't so much taking a break or trying to ease back on the amount of the time we can dedicate to the show. None at all. Actually, it's more the opposite of where we're going to be just, doing more of that kind of work Tim described. to help grow our family. We've been just so in the mode of just release an episode, kind of just Tim and I here that our new connected podcast friends were able to give us some perspective, be like, hey guys, we can do more with this show, but you just need to put your eggs in some other baskets here.
That's right.
All the same, you're here, whether you're new or old. We're so happy to have you along for shifting things up here. So, well, but we have a whole full episode to get to still. So unless there's anything else, Tim, you want to get into it?
Is there anything else? No. I mean, I hope if people celebrated Thanksgiving, they enjoyed that. It was, a week ago or whatever. I did. I ate so much. I usually am not like a big eat ridiculous amounts on Thanksgiving. I kind of like have like a plate and maybe a seconds. But I went very deep last week on just so much food. Like it never ended. It was crazy, but it was good.
Sounds great. I live in Thai town in Hollywood. I got Thai food from my favorite Thai place. Tim, actually, since we're recording this, everyone ahead of time, it's not quite December. It's actually the day after Thanksgiving, which is called Black Friday.
Oh, God.
By a lot of people. Tim, I would love to know, just really quick, per our rating system, would you tell yourself to avoid, stream, rent, or buy Black Friday?
I am a unwavering avoid. I have never in my life gone shopping on Black Friday. And I intend to keep it that way.
Great. All right.
I just realized, I was like, damn, I might want to go see a movie today. And if it's Black Friday, man, like I could find a movie theater that's not in sort of a busy area, I guess. But dude, I don't even want to know I don't even want to get in my car.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Though, yeah, yesterday was the day to do it. I don't know, you listeners, what kind of city you're living in, but it's kind of cool with a big city. It feels like you just kind of get 70% of the kind of general activity and amount of people slashed. So it's kind of is a fun day to wander, like on the day of the holiday itself. Yeah. Anyways, well, I hope you get to Ghostbusters Afterlife sooner rather than later. The same. All right. Wait, we got a movie from from 1998 starring Michael Keaton. Family We had to do that joke at some point. All right.
That's right.
No, from 1997 we're doing today. Let's see, what was the name of this director? Oh yeah, Michael Cooney. Written by Michael Cooney and Jeremy Paige. Here we go. Jack Frost.
One cold night, science and evil collide. Oh, yeah. Now, a serial killer is on the loose.
We hadn't even tested the acid on an amoeba, let alone a human cell. This is a disaster. Look, I just saw something that doesn't belong in this world, and it's out there killing my friends. Now tell me what it is. Jack Frost.
I think Jack's about to make an entrance. And he's giving cold-blooded a whole new meaning.
Hey, Jack! What? You left the 710 split.
All right, Tim. Well, so sad to not watch this one with you here, but I'm excited to talk to you about it today all the same. So, Tim, we've done the trailer. I'm just excited to know how stupid you thought this was, how much you might have hated it. Would you tell yourself, Tim Aslin, to avoid this film, stream this film, rent this film, or buy this film?
To be honest, it's so dumb. Like, it's one of the more dumb movies, period, I've ever seen. But like, I don't know. There's something weirdly. It obviously knows it's not trying to be anything but completely ridiculous, camp, stupid, just over the top, whatever. And it somehow, typically, I'm like, ugh, I hate that. But I just think it's so stupid that it's worthwhile, and I actually quite enjoyed it. So I'm a rent for Jack Frost.
I think we got to double rent it on our hands, folks. I got to give it a rent also. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it more, but it is like the good kind of stupid for me, where either it's like, at one point, I'm just kind of like gotta just laugh and shake my head over how stupid one of his one-liners is, and then but for every one of those moments too, then I'm like genuinely surprised by like an actual smart gag that gets in there somehow.
Right.
And with a lot of the films that, God, what was it called? Like Santa's Sleigh or something like? No, is it? I don't know. I can just think of some other low rent straight to video films that are holiday themed, where the filmmakers just kind of seem like just kind of cruel people, or I don't know, like the way they have fun is just, there's something kind of mean-spirited or not actually funny about it. This one, yeah, it just seemed all it seemed more in like you could tell they were having a good fun time, and I don't know, the movie didn't have that weirdness to me. There's plenty of other weirdness about it, but it seemed like there was mostly a good people who made it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. No, it's it's just, it feels, it's well enough put together that, it's not like they were just a handful of people screwing around just for fun, even though it has kind of that underpinning, but it still had enough of a budget to like make a movie that like, is serviceable as a movie.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So, they rented some lodge in Big Bear and went up there and did their thing. And like, and their thing is just stupid enough to be fun and funny.
Yeah, like you couldn't imagine this film working with any other kind of tone or budget level, in a way. And we don't have this as one of our rating options, but even more accurate than a rent it would be like watch it at a screening in December with an audience. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like they made a movie specifically for, I guess, high school and college age kids to put on and laugh about. Like, just to be like, this is so dumb and fun.
Or the sense that I get for the high school, college kid in all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I can imagine that this movie should, I think, very much be watched with a bunch of other people, where you're like, just you can just throw stuff at the screen and laugh. Like, it's that kind of feeling.
Yeah, I had seen it before, watched it with other people then, so I don't know, 10 years ago, and
really?
It was a good time.
Cool.
But I was able to have a fun enough time here as my big Thanksgiving movie I watched by myself. So it's kind of funny with that context.
Cool.
All right. Let's really, we're excited to dig into it already. So let's do just that by moving on with our summary here. What is Jack Frost from 1997? What happened in it, Tim?
Oh, man. Jack Frost. Wow. It's kind of Chucky.
Yeah.
Right? It's a serial killer being transported, in the middle of a made-up town, Snowminton. and not Snow Mountain, just Snowminton. And they crash into a truck that's carrying an experimental like acid, and the serial killer gets completely doused in it and disintegrates, and his DNA and the snow that he falls into somehow combine into his cells turn into snowflakes. I don't know. I mean, it's who cares? It's ridiculous.
Right, we get that little like CG animation of what's going on the cellular level.
But it's so that he can turn into a snowman. I mean, a serial killer turns into a snowman is this movie. A snowman. So he then happens to be in the town where the cop who arrested him originally lives. And he goes on a rampage, and they have to figure out how to kill him. That's it. I mean, that is it. There's nothing else going on.
Well, he kills some people along the way. Jack Frost,
sure,
as in his snowman self. In case that wasn't clear.
Yeah, he goes on a little murder spree.
Yeah,
he's got quite the sense of Christmas humor.
Yeah, he does it in very snowman ways. All he kills.
Yeah, like the first guy he kills, the coroner comes by to be like cause of death, and he's like, well, he's got no external bruising, which implies that the killer had some sort of large thing in their hands, or maybe were wearing giant mittens. It's like, yeah, snowman hands.
Bum, bum, bum. All right,
so
great.
It's just dorky shit like that.
Yep. And they got to team up. The town gets together and defeats him, more or less.
Hey, I'll tell you what. In the realm of how do you stop an unstoppable force, this movie has a very good solve and like solution, no pun intended, to killing the snowman. I love it.
And a good fake out solve too, which we'll get to.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, let's get to all that then for our next big main section here. What worked?
What worked? What worked for you? What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
This is one of those, Tim, I feel like I just got to start at the way beginning with just like settling into what the particularness of whatever this film is.
Yeah.
It starts with a very long opening credit sequence over, I mean, all the credits, like, decked out on ornaments on a Christmas tree. But it's all to this like narration of a father telling the story of this Jack Frost to his daughter. But it's like the voice of the daughter, it's like a cartoon character style where it's clearly a woman or an adult doing the voice of a kid. And there's just something so off about it where I was like wavering between kind of hating and loving it and just how weird it was, and then just kind of landed on being actually kind of disturbed in a way that set me up for this movie pretty well. Like it's hard to say if they were intentional or not, but this was kind of a first example where it just keys into some kind of weird energy that I don't know. It's just kid. I don't know if you could intentionally do it, but
I think,
but that just does get to me on some level. Like it's like the voices are off and.
Yeah, well, it very much has that like. You know what it reminds me of a lot, actually? It was taking me a minute to sort of hone in on it. But you remember the opening of Scrooged? I think it's the opening. And it's like this old dude sitting by a fireplace with a big book, and he's like narrating the coming story of A Christmas Carol, right? And then they, I forget what happens, but like a light falls in the background, and you realize that you're on a studio, and camera pulls out, and it's like, oh, this is the filming of this network's version of A Christmas Carol. And then you meet, Bill Murray and everybody. But it's so because even that is a play on that old style of like, the old dude opening a book, reading from it as the intro to the story, right? And I think this is very much playing off of that. I swear the guy's voice, whoever did the voiceover for that intro, I feel like they just found the guy who like did that for his whole career. You know what I mean? He sounds so good. But then you're right. They insert this very strange little girl voice, which is clearly just an adult actor doing a little kid's or like a cartoon kid voice. And it is, I think right off the bat, you just go, oh, this is just going to be weird.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think actually that's to the point of the whole movie. If you set it up in the very, very first, 30 seconds that things are just weird here, you can kind of do anything, right? Like you just accept that. Like the world of this movie, put aside the fact that he turns into a snowman. Forget about that. In this movie's world, a like 16-year-old aggressively bullies like a 10-year-old in like such an over the top fashion that it's just like, dude, I don't feel like that exists. Now, sure, high school people bully kids, but like it's just so over the top. So I'm like, all right, I'm on board. Like, I mean, granted, he soon after loses his head, which is even more awesome, but that's the world of the movie. I'm like, I'm in. I'm cool with that.
But you see, there's like what I was trying to say. Yes, agree to all that. But I was just trying to like hone in on something I was a little at the loss of words for, of like when it's not intentional, those things. Like,
but
I don't
think that those things in this movie are not intentional.
No, like think of those, like having a little an adult play like a little kid voiceover. I don't think the filmmaker went, ooh, yeah, that's going to be the right amount of weird to really set people up for this film. Same with the 16-year-old harassing the 10-year-old in that way you described. I don't think he's like, yeah, this is an interesting kind of particular, view way I'm trying to present this. Like that's what's throughout these films. It's not conscious. Yeah.
But it is who the filmmakers are.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that's like just that kind of thing is sprinkled throughout this film is just one of the elements that just kind of keeps your attention going. I found throughout the whole thing. Like there's such a weird little touch where the filmmaker's favorite style for the dialogue scenes of just getting as much done as they could in a shooting day, I imagine, was just like these long takes with 2 or 3 people just kind of in a wide shot talking to each other. There's one at the beginning when like the town was setting up and we're kind of meeting a few of the characters. We're holding on the 2 people talking to each other for the long time. Just kind of not really looking at it, but they're standing in front of a doorway. And then all of a sudden, just this like, just kind of, I don't know, just interesting looking local, I imagine, who's in this film, like walks out holding a giant like Christmas bulb ornament that's like, 3.5 feet wide kind of thing. Just like, and their walk is just kind of funny. Just it's a weird visual like that. Like that maybe is an example of something that's more of an intentional gag. But like as far as like the casting of that person and just the way they did it, like that's all the kind of happenstance that comes through that you couldn't really plan. That is just so fun and endearing too.
It feels so much. I know it's a bigger production than this, but I feel like the sort of where the filmmakers were coming from, or sort of like the headspace that they were in, feels very similar to when you and your friends, like, so for example, you know, I was a theater major in college, right? You were film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can probably relate to some degree. But in the theater department, you know, if we wanted to explore something, most of the time we just had to go to the theater and get permission to open up, you know, the props room and the costume room and just rummage through it. And this movie kind of has that feel to me where they kind of, at least in some or all stages of the film, we're kind of just in that, like, grab what you think we could maybe use. And then you grab a bunch of stuff, and it's all kind of in, like, this good humored, like, ooh, well, I don't know if this will work, but that might be fun, so just grab it. And then you've got this pile of stuff and you go, okay, well, what are we even doing? And you just start making stuff up as a group. You're like, oh, see that big Christmas ornament over there? Grab that, because who cares? It's funny. It just is what it is. It's a cool thing. I don't know where you grabbed it from, but I'm glad you did. How can we insert it in here somewhere? And just like so much of this movie feels put together with that kind of energy of just like, look around, what can we use? What would be funny? What would feel good and be weird and like over the top? Like, the design of the snowman is so ridiculous. I mean, it's not even a snow. It's not, at no point are we supposed to actually think he's made of snow, right? Like, we just, in reality, I mean, like, he is just clearly I don't even know what material that would be, like plaster. He's just a plaster.
Yeah, when the hand's touching him and it's just so clearly not snow.
Right. But you don't care because it's just serving the bigger purpose of the film, which is just like, have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. It actually ends up translating really well.
Yeah, no, it's funny. We kind of started saying, you know, the stuff that seems unintentional but strikes a certain chord, but then kind of you're getting at some things there that are the more self-aware of what this movie is, that just absolutely works. Like, it's cracking me up when you described it as an experimental acid that transforms him, because you just kind of imagine them just having fun and knowing what it is in the writing room, where it's like, well, we need it to kill him, but we also need him to be transformed. So what would kill him? Well, acid. It's like, well, okay, yeah, but how does he get transformed? Well, what if it's experimental acid?
Yeah. From a genetic research.
Right. It can't. It's just not any regular ooze or liquid or anything. No, it's acid variety of
this movie,
experimental liquid.
Yeah, this movie very much has the Stuff vibes to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of it. I don't know what the right word is, but it just has this, I guess, irreverent sort of style. It's just sort of like, yeah, man, who gives a shit? Let's just do it.
You can tell. I mean, Larry Cohen. You could kind of imagine this director having that same spirit, like when I was like those earlier scenes I mentioned of the townspeople all just kind of out there and getting set up. You can kind of get this feel where like he was almost maybe a fun ringleader, and you know, everyone was just kind of having a kick out of making this weird movie together. And I don't know, it's just that came through somehow, which is maybe the Larry Cohen-esque thing you were trying to describe.
I mean, there's even, in terms of taking itself seriously too, like, it just doesn't. And I think that's really helpful because, so for example, there's a scene where the quote unquote FBI agent and his lackey, who I guess was a part of the creation of this genetically, whatever, altered acid, who knows, they show up in town and the cop is like, "You the FBI?" The guy's like, "Sure, whatever." And it's like, they don't care. It's their way of saying, yeah, we know that this doesn't really, like, the FBI would not have this weird side story back, you know, in the shadows thing going on, but like, we just need to move forward. So let's just shrug our shoulders and carry on.
Yeah.
Which I kind of fucking love.
I had just some more things down that were like examples of weird little touches that you imagine weren't too intentional, but just kind of make you go, what? Like it cracked me up. I will find a way, which is what the killer as Jack Frost, like, you know, he keeps flashing back to.
Yeah.
Just him like all out, just screaming that so intensely. It's beautiful. But then that's actually like what he writes in the magazine letters. But just cracked me up how the magazine letters, it was like, yeah, that classic where it feels like it's like pasted on to be anonymous or whatever. But they weren't pasted on. It was like as if Jack Frost did that on the magazine and then photocopied it, so it was not actually like the pasted on letters. Right. And then he signs it his name, which the whole point of the doing that is to be anonymous. So it's like, of course, that's the kind of movie that does that. Exactly.
But that in and of itself is the joke, right? It's pushing back against and I myself am one of these people a lot of time where I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, so you better figure out a way to make it make sense. But this movie just right off the top is like, no, we're not doing that thing. Actually, we're you know, railing against that actively. We're gonna do a newspaper magazine letter note and have him sign it. And you're like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense. And they're like, that's the point. That is the point. It's supposed to be stupid and make you go, that's a joke.
But then there's plenty, of course, that is not well, here, I just had one last example of things that were, I just wanted to run by you. I enjoyed that was like, what was this intentional or not? But just really tickled me was how, well, first of all, there's like carrots everywhere. Like it's this movie, like everyone's always cooking carrots or has access to carrots or whatever. So there's the one scene where the mom's, I guess she's preparing like soup or whatever, but we like see her, we take a bit of time with it too, chopping a carrot and then celery and then putting them into a pot of non-boiling water and stirring it. What was she doing in that moment, Tim?
Well, that stove probably was a prop stove and they didn't have electricity to it. I don't know. It didn't have gas. So they're like, just whatever. Just fake it.
Stir your chopped carrot celery water.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe she was just trying to, make them a little softer. Just soak them. Maybe, dude, you don't know. Are you a chef? Maybe this is like the way you do celery and carrots.
Right. When you're soaking them in water, you got to stir them.
Maybe there was something else in that water.
Yeah, it didn't look like it. Anyways, now I want to highlight some actual clever things that I thought were fun. My biggest laugh, I think, it was a gag. It felt like it was like seriously on the quality of out of a Naked Gun movie or something. But it was like one of the wide shots of people talking, but it was like the three, I guess, like kind of copy characters and the main guy, three of them looking at the dead frozen body in the foreground. It's like on a chair outside in the snow, and it's like this gruesome corpse, and it has like it's, you know, eerily kind of rocking just during the whole scene. And at some point towards the end of the scene, you know, the one cop guy turns to the other and is like, will you stop shaking the chair? Or something like that, where it's like, or would you get your foot off of the chair or something like that? Yeah, it's so funny. Like, God, it was like just a great visual gag. Really
again, it just, to me, it does feel like, it feels like the kind of thing where people are kind of just, they're in that almost improv mindset, and the director or whoever, but let's assume it's the director, is just kind of, he's saying yes to everything, you know, where he's like, the guy probably did have his foot on it while they were waiting to shoot that scene. And the director's like, yeah. Keep doing that. You just make it a joke. Like, make everything a joke. And
like,
I'm amazed at how well some of it works. It's really good.
Yeah, and even when it's like just the worst joke you've ever heard, I think because it has that spirit you described of like, yes, say yes to it. Like, it just, I couldn't help but laugh. I mean, of course I am a fan of terrible jokes, but like when, after he did that great kill of where, the axe kill, but rather than a slice by an axe, it's shoving a handle, just the handle down his mouth.
And it makes absolutely no sense. So, like, just physically, it makes no sense.
But
it would have gone out the back of that guy's head, right? But, like, who cares?
But then you remember when he said afterwards, he said, "I only axed you for a smoke." Like, it's just, yeah, exactly.
You know what it is? Here's what this whole movie is just one big dad joke. That's what it is. And I think that's that's why I enjoyed it.
Yeah, ditto. And so many of those jokes and gags, they did the old triple P thing. I always bring up. Pursuing potent possibilities is how I put it, or the promise of the premise, how others like to put it. But like all his methods of killing people, they're snowman Christmas themed.
Right.
I mean, it's like run down the list. It's great. Like at one point, he turns himself into a giant snowball to crash through a front door. He kills someone by smashing their face into a box of Christmas ornaments, and then
repeatedly.
And then shoving their cut up face and body into the Christmas tree. There's at one point, it's like, it would make sense if he can kind of do with what he wants with matter and ice and snow. He can shoot spikes out and impale people. Then once we establish that, of course, that means he can grow sharp icicle teeth to bite into people. Like, it just keeps going, and those are the kinds of touches where it's exactly what you want from this movie. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and I in terms of bad guys, like horror bad guys, one I think of the key element to making a good horror bad guy is this sense of they are just kind of unstoppable. Mm-hmm. They can get through things. They can invade you, wherever you are. Like, nothing is going to stop this unstoppable force. And so having this like molecular, whatever you call it, control over his molecules thing, where he can like turn into water and shoot under a door or like through a cabinet or whatever, it makes him completely unstoppable. It's like, how are you ever gonna defeat this thing? And that's really important for a movie like this, where it's like, because if you think about the best monsters or bad guys, they all have that quality, right? Like the alien in Alien is really scary because it's just like, you're screwed. Like, this thing's not, you can't stop it. Jaws, same thing. Like, you just kind of go down the list, Michael Myers, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's having it, like, it's just smart. Like, okay, what do you need to imbue a snowman with to make it unstoppable?
I feel like you just caught yourself, Tim, comparing Jack Frost with Alien and Jaws and Halloween.
You got to give credit where credit's due.
No, and I mean, like the ending. I mean, they actually like think things through within that logic. Like, for the ending, I just thought was so much fun. So they're like, how do we defeat Jack Frost? And someone kind of brings up the idea, well, maybe if we technically get him hot enough, that could destroy whatever the genetic molecular experimental stuff is. But then we go and learn, of course, I mean, it's what you imagine them figuring out. But wait, what does heat do to water? It just turns it into steam. So of course, that's exactly what happens. He steams his way out of the first furnace that they force him into, which, by the way, that was just amazing. And just like,
agreed.
It's exactly what you want to see to corner him with a posse of men holding hair dryers. Just all.
I'll tell you
just
what, they got
going
hold
off
of a
camera,
lot of hair
connected to
dryers
something.
really fast.
Yeah, and it's like, who knows where they're plugged in off screen? Doesn't matter. It's just so great, just having all these guys with hair dryers confronting a snowman, cornering him. Oh my god!
Well, I love that
so good.
they do this gag where they're like, he's hair drying, hair blowing, whatever. And he's pushing him backwards, right? Like he's pushing him into a corner, and then the hairdryer unplugs because he's gone too far.
Oh yeah.
And then later when all of them have hairdryers, there's like one really quick shot of like a power strip with like 50 plugs in it, and it's being dragged along.
Right.
It's like they put it on a power strip on an extension cord and plugged all of them in just to make sure they had enough slack.
I forgot that they do explain it. It's so funny.
Then
I mean, how they defeat him, it's just one beautiful pun. Like, you know, how they actually defeat him in the end. It's like, doesn't matter what antifreeze actually is or how it was work. All that matters is that it's called antifreeze. So what else would you do to destroy an evil snowman than shove him into a truck full of antifreeze?
This is genius writing, genius level writing, right? And not because it's actually like, you know, smart necessarily, but it just makes sense, right? Like when you take, it's perfect irony. And like in a movie that is irreverent like this and based on a sort of just a completely silly premise, irony is like your greatest ally. And that's why a lot of these jokes work, because they're just playing around with people's seriousness in a way. It's like, lighten up, everyone. This is stupid and it's fun and funny. And like, it's dad jokes. Dad jokes are irony, right? Like that's what they are. So, you know,
they're also dad jokes I could define as the trait of just like kind of stretching the logic just a bit too far to makes you just want to groan again. Like instead of asked, I only axed you for smoke. Like
right on the edge of the eye roll.
Yeah.
But you like them because you like the person delivering them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they think it's funny, then it's funny.
Well, he's really is nonstop with all those puns throughout it and his stupid catchphrase. It's like they just did not care. It's just like you said, say yes to everything. But it's funny because like certain point, you know, as bad as they are, maybe the occasional dad joke one that made me laugh or groan or whatever, it sort of almost like I stopped hearing the jokes themselves, and it's like Jack Frost as a villain took on this like manic energy that was just, I don't know, kind of actually effective in being again, I think a way that's inadvertent, but did just take on this energy of just kind of being such an onslaught of just yelling and cruel and just doing what he's doing. And actually, I don't know. There's just examples where it's just funnily enough, these are maybe the more unintentional things, but just where it all came together in a way where it did actually kind of get to me. Like his singing at the end when, you know, they're sorting now they've bottled all the antifreeze back up and are burying him, and we're kind of left to think, oh, he's still alive in the antifreeze there. There's a version of Silent Night playing with the voice of Jack Frost singing it. It's just like that touch is incredible. Like, and it goes on long enough, and his voice is just kind of evil and sinister enough. It was just was a great horror moment. Silent Night, you know, just kind of unrelentless and how, I don't know, just doing whatever it is.
I mean, the whole movie is just so full of this type of, I mean, it's thought out. It's actually purposeful. And like the whole reason that the antifreeze comes up is set up in like the first or second scene of the cop. It's because his son, who, like, I don't know why they made this decision to make the son like also strange and insane. Like he's he's making oatmeal for his dad in the morning, and it's like it looks just like a turd. It just looks awful, whatever it is. And he humors his son and takes it with him for lunch, and he almost throws it away. I mean, they go. It's a whole sequence of things about this stupid oatmeal. He doesn't throw it away because he's like, oh, I'll feel bad. You know, my son will find out, even though he won't. You know, so I'll just save it. And that's the callback that leads to the solve of the movie. Like, that's great. Like, that's how you look. You don't have to be overt about how you form your callbacks. You don't, but you should have them. Everything should be connected to some degree. And this is just sort of an in-your-face example of it. But in spite of that, it doesn't matter if it's in your... Well, in this movie, it certainly doesn't matter because that's just what the movie is. Yeah. But, like, the second he hits Jack in the face with the oatmeal, which seems in and of itself kind of silly, too. Like, he's just grabbing at whatever he can grab. And it's like, hurts Jack. It's so satisfying because we all go, oh, whoa, what's that all about? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why did that oatmeal, that lump of turd oatmeal looking thing hurt him? And the kid, like, this kid is psychotic. He put antifreeze into the oatmeal to keep it because he's like, I don't want my dad getting cold.
Honestly, that's, I feel like, the kind of thing I would have done as a kid. Like, you just kid logic. Okay, antifreeze makes things not get cold, you know?
Yes, okay. I mean, did you have people like making sure you didn't murder somebody by accident?
I wasn't playing with antifreeze.
Yeah. Keep the antifreeze out of Ryan's reach. Actually, ironically, the kid's name is Ryan, so
yeah.
Maybe it's based on you.
Maybe. But I thought when you're describing the kid, it was more just like just kind of like everyone in this movie. There's a particular casting to them where they, you know, they're everyone on the fourth page of Actors Access or just locals. Like, what are the two? Like, brutal. That is. I'm sorry, but I mean, I didn't mean that way. I really mean it as like, I don't know. It's a certain type. That's all I mean by it. Like,
no, it totally is. I mean, you have to be willing to not take yourself too seriously, but also be serious about your not seriousness, if that makes any sense. Like, in order to do this type of acting, you got to just let it fly. You just got to not care.
Yeah, and just try to take back how that sentiment might have sounded. Like, no, these are like to do. Like they're it's like perfectly cast. Like they're great. But anyway, whatever.
Well, think about it this way. Who of like the most famous actors in the world could have played the lead cop and made it work?
I was actually trying to think that during it. Like, you wouldn't want someone that was as much of as like a Leslie Nielsen. Like, that would be too much. Like,
that's
it's
right.
Gotta, yeah.
So, for me, what comes to mind is somebody who, if you were like the highest end Hollywood celebrity casting of this, I think you want to get somebody like George Clooney, because he can be this weirdly comical, irreverent thing, but also be grounded and endearing at the same time. Like, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is a perfect example of just like, wait, what? This is George Clooney? Like, he's totally over the top and comical, and yet he's still George Clooney and he's a fantastic actor, and we buy it and we just buy in. So like, it can be done, but like, I guess you can't afford George, so you keep going down the line until you can afford somebody. But it's not a knock against the actor. Being able to do this thing is a thing that is challenging, and not everybody can do it.
Well, shout out to, I think, just fit right in her screen debut, Shannon Elizabeth
Oh, I meant to look that up. This was the first thing she was in. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just how she just like fits right into what this movie is doing. I just imagined this line being like just kind of a clap line almost if you watch it in theaters, just because of just how just something about her delivery is just so spot on. It was so funny. It's when the dad's freaking out at her about whatever, going to her boyfriend's, whatever. Yeah. And he's like, do not forsake the name of the Lord in this house. And she responds just the way she says it. Like, the Lord forsook this house long ago. Like, it's so funny.
She's a great example of somebody who understands how to be like, how do you describe this? She's playing it straight, but understands that it's inherently silly. Yeah. And so like, that's like why her character in American Pie works so well, is because she is sincere in her delivery of all of these things. And you believe her. Like it's pretty funny. Like she's I think she gets a bad rap for maybe not like having a career that carried on into like bigger and broader success. But like, dude, she's good at what she does.
No, I know you're right. Is a good example where it's like in American Pie, she's knowingly just jumping and be like, I am just playing like just the male fantasy stereotype of like the foreign exchange student. And that's all it is supposed to be as like a character or whatever.
Right. But she does it fully.
Yeah. And then just, after that line exchange I just said, which is so funny, then it just like doubles down, but it again in the way where I'm like, that actually was kind of funny, because then the dad claps back again at her. He says, when I want philosophy, I'll turn on Oprah. or maybe he says that to his wife, kind of there.
Yeah, either way.
But yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. It is, I don't know. It's hard to kind of pinpoint why this is fun and enjoyable versus, say, what was the one, Evil Ted or something like that? Evil Ed. Evil Ed.
Ted! Why not?
Evil Ed, which we didn't really like, but it's in the same kind of mode. But something about that doesn't translate.
Yeah.
Whereas this just feels okay to be dumb. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, our main issue with that one was that it just never was. It was so seeped in just the movies it was trying to be that it never was being its own thing.
No, that's
this
true,
is just an example of so clearly doing just how I put it, promise of the premise.
Yep.
Killer snowmen. It's fine if we just copy more or less the Chucky formula, because great. Like,
well, and it kind of, it does harken back to things like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, or God, I don't know. What's another good example of that kind of
That's a good one, yeah.
Of like, it's slapstick, bordering on slapstick, I guess. I'm not sure if that's the right term exactly, but it even feels, if you go back far enough, it sort of still feels in the vein of like an Abbott and Costello or Three Stooges or Marx Brothers. Like it kind of has that underpinning of that type of humor that is kind of dumb, but like, when it's executed by that high level of talent, such as those examples, it becomes this other thing. I mean, it's why vaudeville was so popular for so long. It's like, it's not because it's reality, it's because it's archetypal and it's poking fun at all of those things and being over the top for the sake of goofiness and irreverence and fun.
Well, and you kind of see, I wanted to shout out too, you kind of see that spirit you're describing in a lot of the filmmaking itself, just with how it's shot. Like, yeah, there's, some of there's trying to get their day done long takes, but there's some
with a
fun,
handheld.
there's some fun sequences in it, whether it's just they're getting creative with kind of shooting around, the snowman prop or costume, whatever you'd call it. But also just like from the get-go, like, it was great how creative they were and how much just fun and fitting for this film it was with the car accident of like when the car crashes or whatever and it's all going down. It's like all these shots of the camera spinning in circle to like, like they're getting flipped over or whatever. It's just fun. It had that energy to it. It's creative. Just some other like creative things like that struck me too about it. It's little touches that are like creative, but just in the sense of being that like just kind of weird too, where you're like, I don't know if I would have thought of that, but there's something kind of cool about that works. There is the fact that like he didn't just turn. It was just a nice solve. You can imagine them being like, okay, the antifreeze, how do we make it so it's like it's actually looks like it's killing him, rather than just if he's just, we've established melting is, just something that he'll just come back from. So to distinguish it from his general melting, they make it so he actually has like gore attached to him when he gets the antifreeze.
Absolutely love that.
Right?
When he first gets hit with the antifreeze oatmeal and it fleshifies his face, I was like, oh dude, here we go. This is it.
No, me too. And just that made all that much more satisfying just to like get him in there, get him in the pool of antifreeze and look at him melt and turn into gooey gore flesh snowman stuff.
This movie is like, I think one of the better examples, just as like a rule in how you progress your story, of every scene should up the ante. And with this one, they're doing it through him and his kills. So even his design, right? Like he has abilities as a snowman that each ability that we learn about is bigger and more scary than the last thing. And that's true. The whole movie is set on that kind of, I guess, staircase, format where it's like you're just continuing to go up the stairs every scene. And you should do that. Like you should want to do that. It's not like a hard and fast rule, but your movie should, be kind of this uphill progression of like bigger, better, badder, whatever. And they're so good at doing that. Like even with the constraint of how they show the snowman, it's like the first half of the movie, it's all just in like hyper close up. It's almost like why? Like why aren't we seeing it? But that in and of itself is a device to hold. It's almost like don't show the shark until the last act kind of format, right? Like they could have easily shown us the whole snowman a lot. There's no reason not to, right? Like it's just a prop.
I mean, you do see it a lot,
but you don't see it in its full form, right? You don't see it walking around. You don't see its arms. You see everything in close up until we get kind of this like we've evolved into other versions of it. Like when he gets blown apart, or not blown apart, but like whatever, he tries to put himself back together, and he's like out of whack, and he says, "Hey, I'm a Picasso."
Oh my God.
That's like the first time we see him in full, right? And it's a weird jumble version of him in and of itself, which is again another way of sort of upping the ante. It's like everything is bigger and better. It's like when he finally grows teeth, like that's one of the sort of close to the end kills where it's like now he's got this other thing going on, this teeth puppet head, icicle teeth. So it's just, I guess like my point is that it's kind of a masterclass in progressive like storytelling in terms of like how you move through it and make you leave behind every scene, you leave behind the thing that you just did and you move into a bigger, better version.
Yeah. Or again, it's just that, I mean, it's kind of same but different as, I've been saying of the what can you only do in this film? Pursuing Potent Possibilities, Killer Snowman movie, like all in that end sequence too. You just kind of imagine getting a thought of like, okay, well, you can turn into liquid, turn back into snow. what if he were to get inside of someone? What if someone were to drink him somehow?
Exactly.
And they answer that, and it's so good. And this is just another one of the examples of like, not is it just that the person he gets inside of just, spews fire hose, vomits Jack Frost back out, but like right before he does it, like they bother to do this effect where it's like his neck extends upwards and like kind of bulbously expands outwards at the same time. And you're just kind of like, why even like that wouldn't happen, but like why bother with it? But it's just this like great, weird, creative touch that's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of same on the level of the gore, snowman gore thing. It's weird.
It's a horror movie and you gotta just like keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. So why not? It'll be great. And it was. It's so good. The movie is so bad, but it just doesn't matter. Yeah.
I mean, actually, that's not the right way of putting it. The movie, is the movie bad?
Well, what is the goal of a film? Is it if a goal of a film is to try to be the exact movie it should be, then you couldn't say this is bad. But if bad immediately means kind of silly, dumb, stupid, trashy, all those things, then if that's what bad is to you, then sure. But I wouldn't say that.
Actually, that's a good way of putting it, because by that way of looking at it, I would argue that this movie is excellent. Because it's really good at doing things that make movies good.
Yeah.
It's got really good story structure. It's got callbacks. It's got, progressive plot. What else? It has payoff. It has catharsis. Like, it has all of the things that are the ingredients, I guess, of a good movie. And it does all of those things. So why would you consider it bad? Because it's low budget?
Yeah.
Or because it's not famous actors? I guess you could be like, well, it's bad because of that, but it's not bad. It just is what it is. And all of the things that go into making a movie good are in this movie.
They even, Tim, as far as just things that are good you want in this kind of horror movie where, they usually bring up some kind of philosophy or metaphysical idea or, question about human nature. Like it doesn't really click. I don't know. It sort of did the thing where it was like, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Wait, is it? Is that just, does that, or that? No, it doesn't make any sense at all. I just want to know what you thought of the quote when the Federal Bureau guys, telling the story of the science, and he gets to like the end of it. It says that proving the idea that the soul is a chemical. And I was kind of like,
the soul is a chemical, dude. the soul is a chemical. I changed my mind. I think everybody was just high when they made this. And that's okay too, because they knew what they were doing, but they were baked, and that's how you get good stuff.
Yeah, was weed still a drug of choice in 1997? Was cocaine on its way out then? I don't know.
Oh God, 97?
They were all in the mix.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like the 90s, everything was, yeah.
Sadly, where I grew up, heroin was kind of quote unquote en vogue, which is really weird to say, but I remember finding that out and being like extremely shocked as a high schooler. I was like, wait, high school kids are doing heroin? What? Mostly they were smoking weed though.
Yeah. And went on to make Jack Frost. Oh man. Snowminton. Just says it all.
Do I have anything else that's worth talking about? Oh yeah.
Well, of course.
Yes. So I guess I think that there are, look, I'm a curmudgeon, like that's part of who I am. And that's take it for what it's worth. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily like that that's the way I am, and sometimes I wish I wasn't, but most of the time I am. But I feel invigorated by this movie. It's like anti-curmudgeon for some reason. And I don't know why. But for example, the curmudgeon in me wants to say that if you dove into a pool of antifreeze, that's something. You're probably not going to end up great for you,
right? Because the cop dives
you, Jack
in with
Frost,
him. Yeah,
the snowman. You, a human being, flying around in a pool of antifreeze seems pretty unhealthy. And they don't even just do that. They throw a kid in there with them.
What's the word? They baptize him in it, basically. They
Exactly.
shove him underneath it. It's like, make sure he's covered head to toe in antifreeze.
But so again, I don't really know what it is or why it's somehow okay in this example, whereas there are other movies that I come down really hard on, like within like the lack of logic or just the suspension of disbelief is too much. But for some reason, I don't know. This movie has it's like kryptonite to my curmudgeonness.
It's great. I love that. It's that spirit that I said that word a lot today, but maybe it's just because the Christmas spirit. But like what made
Sure.
you love equinox? Anytime there is that now I'm just trying to find another word for spirit, but anytime there is that thing behind a film of the thing, the energy in which it's made, I just keep saying spirit, right? You know what I'm saying. You know, I did have one last thing. I have a feeling this may be in your what did not work. I gotta mention here the infamous, call it a rape scene with Shannon Elizabeth. Snowman Jack Frost attacking her in the bathtub. Hear me out. If you imagine watching this in a crowded theater or whatever, like, I feel like let's even just to help paint the picture even better, just to say how maybe you could plug into enjoying something as disgusting as this. Like, I wouldn't want that movie. I wouldn't want this to be done nowadays in movies, in like a movie, like, yeah, whatever. But imagine, let's say like John Waters is hosting this film. Like, that's the kind of energy behind the spirit of watching this in a crowd or whatever. So more of the thing that I liked and what worked about it is just the lead up to the moment of like the 90s guitar just like going all out with these gratuitous shots of her like soaping herself up and getting a dress to get into the shower. Like, that is just, it's just so sleazy. I just can't help but kind of like, especially if you're in a crowd, just kind of like cheer and just like, how else do you react? You just kind of, roll your eyes and just yell at it. And it's just sort of, it's a reaction, that it gets. It's just so stupid as the rest of the movie. It's great. But then as far as pushing it to just something in such horrible taste, again, in that John Waters watching it in a crowd sense, like, there is the part of me, again, wouldn't want to make it nowadays, but like in that context, it's just like would get just such a reaction at all. Like, you can just imagine this kind of fervor of just like booing and cheering and laughing and hooting and hollering just for the audaciousness of just being confronted with something so like ridiculous and taboo like that. So there's my in defense of that scene and why in a certain context I could put it under what worked.
Okay. I kind of get what you're saying. I actually think minus the actual, what was the word you used where it's just, I guess just in bad taste. Up until the actual, like, it's like, oh, okay, it actually seems like he's raping her. I like most of that scene. Like, I think all of those things work really well. I just simply, I just think, I don't know, I don't want that. I don't think it serves anything to be to for me at least to go to that, you know, whatever you call it, to go to the rape.
I think what it is like, for me, it sort of captures, maybe it's better things of note, but it captures like a time and a place and a people in that time and place. Like this was done, the filmmaker, whoever, you know, Michael Cooney, his co-writer, whoever, like they thought it was, you know, not crossing a line, or actually thought it was actually funny, something like that. So like what that kind of like hooting, hollering response would be in a crowd, for me, it's not what the snowman is doing to her, but it's almost this kind of like embracing and acknowledging of the fact that we have people walking among us who would put this on the silver screen. It's like almost accepting that side of themselves, of them in a way. I don't know. For me, it's just kind of in that horror movie way, in a way, just like almost celebrating the worst sides of ourselves, or being confronted with it and kind of, I don't know, as a collective making peace with it, which is all heavy and a lot to say for fucking Jack Frost, but I don't know. I mean, it is. I mean, God, it is infamous for a reason. So I think can't allow for a little dismembering on that level.
Sure. Well, let's do some things that did not work, and we can talk more about it.
Right, because as I said, I figured you'd have it for that section. All right, here we go. What did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
Okay. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. My only issue, well, it's not my only issue. My main issue is that you don't need it for this movie. Like this movie, it seems like a, you know, a holdover from just a different era. And where rape, you know, kind of stuff like was taken lightly.
From the 80s.
Right. You know, and you see it in like the original Evil Dead, right? There's the Woods kind of end up raping.
From the 80s, yeah.
Right. And there's various other movies. I mean, there's plenty of movies that, like Revenge of the Nerds, there's like a full-on rape scene in that, and it's made out to be a joke. And it's just it's fucked up. I mean, that was the world, and that's how people viewed that stuff. So for me, when you see that kind of thing in this thing, I'm not really forgiving of it, but I do understand the context of the time, but I still think it's bad, and I think that it shouldn't be in there. Like, it actually goes, to me, it kind of flies in the face of the movie. Like, it doesn't fit to me. If this was a movie about the awful things that human beings can do to each other, then I understand, you know, the purpose of having a rape scene. Cause like, you know, Last House on the Left, I think that is the point, right? Like it's the point. But in this, like you said, it's just kind of in bad taste. It doesn't need to be there. It doesn't serve the movie. It doesn't make us, it's not like a hinge on how we feel about Jack Frost, the snowman killer. You know, it doesn't make us go, oh, well, now I really hate him. It's like, yeah, none of that. So for me, it's pointless to have in there, and actually is, you know, has a negative effect on the movie itself, because you could have that exact scene, every piece of that exact scene works fine without the rape. Just have him kill her. He's killed other people. Like, why are we exploiting this notion of women's, you know, bodies are there to be sexualized? Now, having said that, that's like all of cinematic history. So it's not like this is an anomaly. Like, this is falling into the norm of a century's worth of film and how they view women. But does that make it okay? Absolutely not. And like you said, you wouldn't want to see that in a movie that was made today, because we should know better. Like, that's just not something that we should use as a plot tool or just as a way to be sort of exploitative and simple-minded about how we view women and women's bodies in film. So that's it. That's my piece. Just have a million icicles come out of him and like impale her. He can do the whole like envelop her thing and then have an icicle death. I don't care, like whatever.
I have to imagine that they're this is not in defense of, but we're just trying to like imagine them in the writer's room together. That and just doing all that you can with the promise and the premise. One of them probably just mentioned the idea of the carrot as his member, and they couldn't not do it at that point, just according to them.
But so for me, if I was in that room and that got brought up, I'd be like, I'll give you that up to the point of the attempted use of the carrot, but then I would have her defend herself and like snap the carrot in half or whatever, like do something that sort of is poignant to the, I don't know, not inappropriateness, even though it is not inappropriate, just the shittiness of making a lark out of that kind of thing. Right.
I mean, she could bite it or off or something.
Sure.
That'd be funny because that would double the joke because it's a carrot.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So like, I just think that it's the one kind of place in this whole movie where I'm just like, okay, you did. That's no thanks.
So I think my in defense of it wasn't even so much like what worked or what didn't work, because like hearing you describe it that way, I'm like, yeah, no, that is more in tune with our sections. Like sort of what worked, what didn't work sort of ends up being like what we would change about it to kind of like hone it to our ideal version if we could just snap our fingers or whatever.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. But for me, I'm just talking less about like what worked and what didn't work, but just sort of from the standpoint of this exists, this is what it is.
Sure.
And I think, I mean, hey, maybe, the fact that this exists is one way we've been able to, we're able to now point at it and say something about it, right? So it's helpful in that sense. But again, it just like imagining it in the theater with the crowd, or, if you can just put yourself in that context or whatever, if you're alone too, I guess counts. But like the gross, like weird feelings that come up during the scene, like how nice is it to be able to just like scream that out or like make a noise with a crowd of people, just to kind of like you're on a roller coaster of just like what is this feeling in my chest here, just this is horrible, just to be able to go with a group of people about it, I think is just the context that I was trying to highlight.
No, I get it. Yeah, I just, like you said, if it were me making this movie, I would not have done that scene that way.
Yo, Michael Cooney, how about this instead?
Jesus. Yeah.
You kind of made me ease up on him. The only thing that I had down, but it's kind of just as a question mark of what didn't work for me. Like, I loved all the casting in it, like, but the main guy, like, yeah, he was the right level of not being too much or too little of something, but I don't know. He just didn't have that natural quirk to him.
Yeah.
That like, I kept forgetting like which one he was when he was going around with the different cops, but then like everyone else just did seem like that, you can use the word, just that quirky cast of characters. Right. But whatever, he's fine.
Yeah, he was fine. I'd have to like look at an ancestry thing, but his wife, the woman who plays his wife, has my mom's maiden name. So I wonder if we're distantly related. Eileen Seeley, spelled the same way too.
They didn't come over for your Thanksgiving dinner?
No. What else? Shannon Elizabeth. Oh, wait. Now I'm doing things of note. No. So what else didn't work for me? Everything's so dumb that it's kind of like, how do you criticize it? I don't know. I thought it was weird that Shannon Elizabeth's character and the boyfriend broke into the cop's house to like fool around.
Oh, that cracked me up. I mean, I could put that under that. Actually, I did want to mention in what worked because it's an example of just saying yes to something. They clearly did it just because so that they could just use the same location. And it's just like, so they didn't have to get another location because it's just so funny. They try to play it like it's, oh, wouldn't it be, I don't know. It kinky or exciting to just be here, but it's almost more just like out of convenience is the way she puts it. Like it's just right here. He won't notice.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't know. So I don't know. What's the point in criticizing or like, I don't have anything that's worth saying about it. That's like, oh, this didn't work. Everything worked. It's so dumb.
Everything worked. It's so dumb. That says it. I think that's a very good, well, there you have it kind of sentiment to wrap up on here.
Absolutely.
All right. Then we can move on to, well, wrapping up a bit more here with our next section, lest we forget things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
Yeah, so I guess I already started doing this. The Eileen Seeley, Shannon Elizabeth's first thing. What else? It was filmed in Big Bear, which I presumed when we watched it. I was like, this has got to be Big Bear or Arrowhead or something like that. And sure enough, there you go. They made a sequel, which now I kind of want to see.
And what's the name of it, Tim?
The sequel's called Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman.
From 2000. Same director.
They were going to make a third one, but it fell through. What's your take on things that are like straight to video?
What do you mean?
Like, that's not really a thing anymore, is it?
I mean, the equivalent is direct to streaming,
right?
Which, like, I recommended it. No, I don't think that came out in theaters. Like the Craft reboot sequel.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
that was like an example of direct to video. I don't know. Wait. I mean, what exactly are you asking though? If they still exist, or what do I?
What am I asking? I'm asking, like, I suppose I'm sort of asking, like, the merit in the past, or the. Do you think that the criticism that's sort of implicit in a straight to DVD, or like the consideration of those movies as being shittier, is valid? Considering that now we live in a world where like that construct doesn't even exist. You just have endless movies on the same level on Netflix that you may or may not come across.
Right. Because like aren't all the great shows released straight? Like Stranger Things is a direct to video. You can
well, exactly, right?
It's a
like,
show.
so,
I guess that's a little different. It's a TV show, but we're just blurring the lines more and more between movies and shows anyway. Here's what I think. I think that complaint or that assumption is valid from a historical perspective,
right,
of the kinds of things you would see on the shelves. But I think there is a benefit to, if you're making one where you are almost kind of just like being given a free reins. It's like, all that matters is it's called Lion King 2, you know, or you and then within that, if you're actually a filmmaker wanting to try to make something good, you can kind of almost have the keys to the kingdom to do that, as long as you're just doing it within the budget. Like that's kind of all that matters, you know, is that it's called Lion King 2. So I think that's cool. But I think that's, a fair assumption to have based on their track record. But I think something that is worthy of reevaluating as well. And that context should and could possibly change.
Yeah. I have another question for you, Ryan. What do you think of this poster, this movie poster.
Like the official poster of this movie. I feel
considering what's in the movie.
I think, the fact that it doesn't look like the snowman at all and like has eyes and teeth and all that. I mean, my first and a tongue. I mean, my first thought is that this is one of those iconic movie VHS covers that I would always see at the video store. It's like, so distinct.
When I don't remember, it was probably last year. Britt was like, we were thinking about Christmas movies, and she's like, "Oh, I want to see like Jack Frost. I haven't seen that in a long time." And I was like, "What? Like the horror movie Jack Frost?" She's like, "There's a horror movie Jack Frost." I was like, "No." She's like, "Yeah, with Michael Keaton." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, no clue what you're talking about." But if you look at the cover of of the Michael Keaton Jack Frost, that snowman design looks more like the Jack Frost in this movie than the poster for this movie. And it almost makes me think that by the time they got around to making a DVD cover, the other movie had already like become a thing.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh shit.
Like,
that
how
looks
do we make
exactly
him look
like our Jack Frost."
Right. They're like, we
that.
have to make him look clearly evil.
In fact, I would almost venture to guess that whatever studio produced the 98 Jack Frost probably said, "Sorry, you can't use that design. It's too close to ours."
Or just, hey, would you mind? Yeah.
Hey, here's $13. Go hire somebody to Photoshop you a shit poster.
Yeah, here's 13. Exactly. Speaking of, just because Tim will never, ever have the opportunity to give a thing of note for the 1998 Michael Keaton Jack Frost film, that had a very interesting thing of note. 3 of Frank Zappa's 4 children appear in the film.
Can I name them?
Yes, 3 of the 4.
Amit, Moon Unit, Dweezil.
Those are the 3 that are in it.
Yes. There you go. I feel very accomplished that I know Frank Zappa's kids' names.
Moon Unit. Great.
Moon Unit.
Good work, Tim. You mentioned how there was the kid's name was Ryan in it. And that's a thing of note for me, being my name. It's your middle name.
That's right.
Why it's a little interesting, I can put it in the context for everyone else. Why it's kind of be interesting. I just challenge you to think of all just the characters in TV and film who have been named Ryan, like first name Ryan. Yeah, we have Jack Ryan's a famous character, but I swear, even though it's a pretty common name, you really don't hear it that much. So pay attention. Let me know if that's just because I'm named that and you feel that way. I don't know, Tim, do you feel like you see a lot of Tims in movies out there in TV?
I think Tim as a movie character name was essentially struck from usage after A Christmas Carol and Lassie. So like, by the 50s, Tim just stopped being a name because it was so associated with this kid thing, like Tiny Tim and Timmy and Lassie, that I think that was that. Like, I think that it was the end of Tim being a first name for us, character, unless it's like a joke. So you've got like Monty Python uses it as a joke. You have South Park uses it as a joke, right? It's never taken seriously. So
funny.
Yeah.
There's actually we mentioned him earlier, funny, Leslie Nielsen's characters in Wrongfully Accused, his name's Ryan. That's the only one always comes to mind for me.
That's quite the pull there. Ryan.
Exactly, which is what you have to do. Christ. That's my point exactly. Well, for you listeners, I'd be curious to know what's your awareness of your name in film and TV? Does it feel underutilized? Are you someone who it's actually, you hear it a lot? I'd be curious.
Can we create, unless it already exists, the like movie character name database?
I'm sure that exists. Yeah.
Where you could just be like, I want every single, Scott that's been a character in a movie. I want a list.
Let's see. Fictional characters named Ryan. Oh, Ryan Howard from The Office is on the top. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know. Ryan Newman. It looks like a picture of Elijah Wood from The Faculty.
Oh God.
Who's this? Ryan Evans? I don't recognize these pictures.
Yeah, that's pretty obscure.
Yeah, all these people, I don't know.
You know why?
There's a lot.
Everybody's named Jack, Jim, Jack and Jim, man, or James. Jack, Jim, and James, or Michael, or David.
Yeah, those are common. It was fun. I sort of helped me recap when episode of Dead Meat Kill Count exists for the films that we do, which is very much the case. He's been around forever. It is kind of fun to report back on the stats, I guess. We had a total of 10 kills in Jack Frost, which was 8 men and 2 women, and an average kill, which works out to, for a 90-minute movie, an average kill every 9 minutes.
All right.
Pretty
That's
solid.
not bad.
Yeah.
Damn, I wonder what our highest kill count movie is that we've covered.
There's probably some obvious one that are just, it's hard to instantly reference, but sometimes there's just a movie where there's a total killing spree kind of thing. Or
right. Do you get to count like
Ghost
mass
Ship, Tim?
kills?
Yeah, Ghost Ship.
Right. That's like 300 people.
Yeah, just the opening of that movie.
In one scene, yeah. Well, all right.
Probably, that'd be my guess.
Yeah. It's a good guess.
All right. Well, feels like then we're kind of wrapping up. That's it for Jack Frost. So we can wind down with some recommendations. Tim, anything you'd like to recommend dead for this holiday season 2021?
Well, that's a good question. I think that I will recommend Dead because it's the holiday season. And because I basically have recommended every single one of these. The new Marvel series, a new Marvel series is out. It's Hawkeye, and it is a Christmas themed season, I guess. Assuming they do more than one season, I don't know. But so far it's interesting. It's all the things you expect. It's very Marvel-y and very sort of slick in that realm. But it's cool. It's cool. It's interesting. I like it's got that kind of ticking time bomb holiday movie premise of like, so Jeremy Renner is Hawkeye, right? And he gets pulled into a case or whatever you want to call it, a mission, right when he's promised his daughter that he will be home for Christmas. So he has, like, first episode right off the bat, like, this stuff goes down and he calls his wife and he's like, I'm going to be here longer than I thought. And he's like, I feel really bad because I made a promise to whatever his daughter's name is, that I'd be there for Christmas. And his wife is like, well, you've got 5 days. And so it's just like setting that premise up of like seeing if he'll make it home on time. It's very, it's got that same sort of planes, trains, and automobiles. Like, are you going to get home for the birth or whatever? Like that kind of thing I quite like around the holidays. Like it's just a fun vibe. So we'll see if it turns out well. There's only 2 episodes out, but so far so good.
Cool. Well, as someone who hasn't seen all the movies or isn't too into them, but I really liked Loki and the Scarlet Witch show. Is that
WandaVision?
WandaVision. Would you think I'd like this one?
Maybe. It's totally different. Like, it's stylistically different because it is doing this other thing. So that is what I liked about those, is that more than the movies, they were able to like come into their own style and thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little wary of it because it may be doing a little bit of a thing that I thought didn't work for the Netflix Marvel series, which was this kind of construct of like the criminal underworld in New York City and like the bosses and like the intrigue within that system, it just kind of got overdone in the Netflix series Ziz. And they're kind of doing the same thing, at least it seems like it to a degree already. And I'm like, well, this is touch and go because those didn't work great. Some of it did, but like overall, I don't know. So we'll see. Fingers crossed, I guess. I don't know.
All right. I'll ask you when it's all said and done then. Should I watch it?
Haley
Tim,
Steinfeld's the other lead, and she's quite good.
Actually, maybe I'll watch it because I found that it is kind of fun to have a new show to look forward to that's being released weekly. It's kind of that old-fashioned way of doing it. All right, Tim.
We're so old.
For my recommendation, you got to be able to tell me what it is. Come on, you got to be able to guess.
I've got to guess what your recommendation is?
What just came out that I
Ghostbusters
clearly...
2, 3? Ghostbusters Afterlife?
No, that I would just, of course, have to recommend Ed.
Is it a movie in the theaters?
No.
Oh. Man.
You can find it the same streaming service you found your recommendation.
Jungle Cruise, your favorite movie, Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, my favorite ride. I've been waiting for all my life.
The Beatles documentary, yeah?
Yes, The Beatles Get Back, directed by Peter Jackson. And I mean, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, we are recording this the day after Thanksgiving, so I've only seen the first episode. But I mean, I gotta recommend it already. Like, of course. Like, it's
that doesn't
great.
Surprise me. I'm very excited to watch that.
It's them, like, you know, in literally back. Like you've never seen them, but because all this footage has been unseen. I mean, what a
That's
treat
cool.
for Beatles fans, the biggest band that will ever exist. And Peter Jackson just cuts and culls it all together into one crazy stream of Beatles coming at you. So well done. I'm so excited. I'll watch the part 2 very soon after we finish recording this. Check it out. Get back to where you once belonged.
That's cool.
All right. Cool. Great. Well, we can wind down then. We're going to be back in 2 weeks with, this may be our biggest episode ever, Tim, next to Psycho for me.
Truly. I cannot tell you how excited I am to watch this movie again. This is one of those films I can't count how many times I've seen it. It's just so formative for me as a person and filmmaker and film fan. So for the holidays, if you can kind of run all that through your system, what's a Christmas movie? That is all those things. Well, it's Gremlins, directed by Joe Dante from 1984. Hoo-ha, hoo-ha. Now, would you say that Gremlins has an undercurrent of anti-Christmasness?
I think we better save that question for our next episode.
I'm gonna watch it through that lens and see if that's true.
Great. Well, until then, you can find us wherever you found us, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Or big ask is you tell a friend if you made it this far. Help us joy help us what's the word? Enlarging our group. I don't know. Get the word out there.
Engorge our group.
Yeah. Like you're a neck inflating from killer snowmen. No, but really, all the same, we're just grateful and thankful to have you here with us. So thank you. All right. Well, in closing, kind of as I just said, in closing, wherever you're listening from, but special shout out to all our listeners in Snowminton. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.